So let's move on to our next film, The Night of the Iguana.
Yes, based on Tennessee Williams' stage play and adapted by John Huston and Anthony Weiler? Let's call the whole thing off. The Night of the Iguana, or as I have now dubbed it, Put Down the Bastard in Maracas, is a story of an emotionally fraught holy man unable to control his urges and demons. Like the entrance to hell in Dante's Divine Comedy, abandon all hope, ye accents who enter here, ought to be inscribed over the opening shots of this film. And I thought, Kate, I'm totally a Brummie, Hepburn's orgiums laughable in the African Queen. Egads. For his Virginia clergyman, Richard Burton has toned down his Welsh lilt so that he mostly sounds English. And then there's Deborah Carr's English Nantucket accent, and her grandfather's Nantucket accent, also very English. Nantucket! Have you heard Massachusetts accents? They are distinctive, to say the least. However, not really the point here, and the inappropriate accents I set to one side and settled down to enjoy this tale full of unlikable arseholes. Okay, it's a bit harsh, mostly full of unlikable arseholes. There are about 1.5 sympathetic characters. Chief amongst the disagreeable former is Richard Burton's Episcopal preacher T. Lawrence Shannon, who, to put not too fine a point on it, can't keep it in his pants, particularly when it comes to younger women. After an opening in which we see him furiously excoriating a congregation who, he believes, have come to his service out of prurient interest in his latest scandal, we soon find the now defrocked vicar leading cut-rate bus tours in Mexico. He has apparently been steadily working his way down the quality ladder of these tour companies, and his current employer is on the bottom rung, a rung from which Shannon is now himself hanging with one finger. So it looks promising for his employment prospects that he is doing little to deflect the advances of Sue Lyon's smitten underage Charlotte. The two getting cosy hasn't gone unnoticed by Charlotte's guardian on the trip, Grayson Hall's Judith Fellows, a miserable harridan who nearly gives herself a stroke having a conniption on the beach, stamping her feet in tantrum as Charlotte, swimming with Shannon in the sea, ignores her. After Charlotte is found in Shannon's hotel room, Fellows makes it her business to have him sacked, something a desperate and entirely rational Shannon attempts to evade by commandeering the bus, driving the party to a hotel owned by a friend of his, sabotaging the engine so that they can't leave, and holding them circumstantially hostage so that you can prove to them that he really is a clergyman, not defrocked, and that he's great, and that they see how great he is if only they gave him a chance. He is not exactly displaying joined-up thinking, though he displays a little self-awareness when he tells Charlotte, I wanted to explain something to you. A man has got just so much in his emotional bank balance. Mine has run out. It's stone dry. I can't draw a cheque on it. There's nothing left to draw out. This hotel is run by Ava Gardner's Maxine, the one sympathetic character, whose hotel, it being out of season, is closed. But due to her friendship with Shannon, she reluctantly agrees to open up, and she's more than a bit miffed when, shortly after the busload, Deborah Carr's itinerant potless artist, Hannah, and her poet grandfather turning up, looking for free room and board while they make some money selling sketches or reciting poetry. The tour group finally recovers the means to fix their bus and to depart, leaving Maxine, Hannah, and a relapsed, drunk Shannon, and in the hands of the Mexican Beach Boys, the goddamn maracas, alone in the hotel. During a long night of the soul, stroke iguana, please note, there are iguanas in this film, but unaccompanied as they are by Johnny Adams singing Release Me, I am confident they are real, literal iguanas, albeit of metaphorical import. After this, a raging Shannon is soothed by Hannah, and the two share some of their demons, though Hannah is further down the road than Shannon, so she becomes his emotional guide. Now, we've not talked about the shed, but I assume Scott hated this, it being chock full of subtext, but I, for reasons I can't readily articulate, really enjoyed it. Despite the aforementioned arseholes, there's plenty to dig into here, and a lot of philosophising about the human condition. There are great performances all around, and, shockingly, everybody is cast largely age-appropriate, though this actually backfires for a 2021 audience, as comments about being 40 from Karen Burton's characters elicited a note of derision from me, a looking up of their bios on IMDb, and a quiet, sad, Jesus. Mid-20th century living was hard living.
I don't know, Richard Burton playing an irascible drunk. I just can't picture it.
It's a bit of a leap, Scott. I mean,
so it's a literal busman's holiday for him, isn't it? My only concern with Night of the Iguana is I'm kind of left, because I only watched this yesterday. I haven't quite really grappled to the point where I can fully convince myself there either is or isn't a point to any of this. I suspect it might be that there isn't, but I can still appreciate it as just a nice little character study. I really enjoyed watching Richard Burton go off the rails. He can do mental quite well, and that's what he's doing for a lot of it. I mean, it is not a subtle performance by any stretch of the imagination, but it really is quite captivating. I guess I have kind of minor quibbles with bits of it. Like, I don't really see why there's so much attention paid towards the end as the poet, Charlotte, the artist, Charlotte, the grandchild of the older poet that shows up towards the end.
Hannah?
Yeah, that's right. And ultimately, I'm not quite sure what they're going for with it, whether it's trying to really sort out Richard Burton's character and give him options to who he could spend his life with, or whatever it is, and it seems to be taking a lot of that agency away from women, if that's the case. So there's a bit of that kind of what precisely was the point of all this categorising that I think I still need to go through in my head to see if I actually can fully like it on that basis. But even without that, I still quite enjoyed it just for watching Richard Burton and these other characters bounce off this wall of mental. And it's between that and John Huston again blowing the travel budget of the studios and having these lovely shots of Puerto Vallarta and such like. All very pleasant. It was very easy to watch, actually, which is odd given some of the content that's in there. But yes, it was quite an easy watch of some fairly difficult material. Yes, ultimately, I don't know if I could say that I liked it or not, but I certainly don't regret watching it. So, yeah, it certainly got that going for it.
Yeah, no, I really did. It's one of the most enjoyable ones in this, although, I mean, it's in good company. There's nothing that I didn't like to see some degree in this podcast, Scott. I just kind of really dug the performances help.
Yeah.
And the 1.5, it's like Ava Gardner, who gives a great performance here as well. She's the one sympathetic card, and Deborah Carr's character is the half.
Yeah.
And nobody else is sympathetic. Everybody else is a get, and the grandfather sort of isn't actually a character, so I don't really count him.
Yeah.
But yeah, because Deborah Carr, she's taking the piss when she turns up, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And then the character ends up being more infuriating than anything else, because she's like, I've only ever had two. She doesn't use the word romantic, but like she's talking about her love life, and I've only ever had 2 encounters, and she says them, and one of them's basically minor sexual assault, and the other is odd. But it's like, I don't understand why that film finishes there. Like, there's clearly something potentially on the table with Richard Burton, or if not, then I don't know, being with him maybe not awaken something in you. You look like you're going to be tremendously lonely.
Yeah.
Some people are simply asexual. It's not a thing that drives them, and that's fine. But people are still lonely. But she seems kind of weirdly determined in that. And I guess she points out, like, I'm a New England spinster. New England with that accent, okay. I'm a New England spinster who's approaching mid-40s. But mid-40s, that's not old. And I know everybody in this film looks like they're 80. But by today's standards anyway, but that's just, it's weird. So that character becomes kind of more frustrating in the end for her own sake. And that's like, I may want to come back to this and see if I can work out what is Tennessee Williams is trying to say with that character. I'm pretty confident I know what's going on with the Richard Burton character. But there's other stuff that just interests me. Like, I'm almost surprised I liked it as much as they'd given, just such odious characters in it. Like, the entire busload of people from a Texas Bible college, well, they're immediately just the worst people then, right? Oh, good, Southern Baptists, yeah, they've never harmed anybody. And yeah, the horrible hardness in there that for some reason Richard Burton describes as being, I wrote this down. What does he say? Miss Fellows is a highly moral person. If she ever recognised the truth about herself, it would destroy her. Well, the truth is that she's gay. And if that would destroy her, then I would say that she's very much not a moral person. Because there's nothing wrong with that. That's just a thing.
Yeah.
And it's weird coming from Tennessee Williams, who himself was gay, so I'm not quite sure what they're saying there with that character. I guess it's more to show that Richard Burton's character isn't completely nihilistic.
Yeah.
I guess. And yeah, but also I kind of hate her anyway because she's this horrible person. She's got that horrible arrogance of Americans. You particularly see in American films, like somehow thinking that American laws apply to other countries. No, get bent. And then like wait till we get back to civilization, suggesting that Mexico's not civilization. So, get bent twice.
Yes.
And get it up you. But yeah, even then there's like hints of... Well, I was going to say a sense of sympathy for that character. Actually, no, there absolutely isn't. I can't stand her. But despite all that, the other people in there that are interesting. But the three main characters, really, really interesting. Sue Lyon's character's in need of a good slap. Is what she needs. But again, she's meant to be like, 17 or something like that.
Yeah.
That's often the case. 17-year-olds often need a good slap. I'm sure I did. And yeah, I'm just left hating the sight of people standing around with maracas because it was doing my head in.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
that was a weird conceit of what was going on with that.
Yeah, they just like maracas.
Yeah, I should probably explain that for anybody listening. It's like at the hotel that Ava Gardner runs, there are two young Mexican men. She describes them as Beach Boys. Is that a thing? I don't know what that would mean other than like the band, like their hotel staff, and they're there quite explicitly to be her romantic partners, shall we say. But most of the time they're like, I think the entire time you see them, they're topless. They're just wearing tight white trousers, and 95% of the time they're shaking maracas. Every single scene they're in, almost. And it was like, just put the maracas down. Put them. I'm going to ram that maraca so far. Put the damn maraca down. Such a weird conceit, and it's kind of, and it's not that you can hear them much, which is fine. And if you could hear them, if they were playing music, it's okay. It's like you just hear in the background a wee bit, but like they're constantly holding maracas. Like, is this an acting choice? Is this a directing choice? It's a choice by somebody. Whose and why? For God's sake, why? Why the maracas? Put the damn maracas down. Actually, I really got stuck in the maracas, Scott.
You're really in the weeds with this whole maraca thing.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I mentioned sound though. I actually meant to mention it when we talked about the treasures of Sierra Madre, so I'm going to pop back to that for a second. It was so weird watching that because we're so conditioned to completely over the top Foley work now, that when you see a bar fight where people are punching each other and you don't hear it sound like someone that just punched a slab of meat with a metal bar or something, it's damn weird.
Yeah.
It's like, like the actual sound you might hear in a fight, which is almost nothing. It's very strange. Yes, but also maracas. Why?
Yeah, I think Tennessee Williams might be something we need to revisit as adaptations or screenplays. Might be something we need to revisit as a topic because I've never quite got a handle on his work, and I'm also now curious to see if the rest of his work is also very maraca centric. If this was like a driving theme throughout his work, that he just like maracas, who can say what they represent? We need to find out.
I was wondering if maracas was a theme in his place. I'm very curious now.
A streetcar named Maracas.
Cat on a hot tin maraca. The glass maracery. So I'll stop now. I've had my fun.